Welcome to all my fantastic Dynasty degenerates out there. This is Dynasty 365 coming at you live and in living color. I'm your host, Chris Burns, and tonight we're discussing all things Orphan Dynasty squads to ensure your Orphan doesn't give you the hard knock life. We enlist the help of Stacy Perez and Tommy Blair. Also, I have my partner in crime, Rich Sickles, with me tonight. And we are in for a great show, guys. The sun will come out tomorrow, but we'll be right back after Rich hits this intro. Rich, hit it, my friend. Welcome to everybody out there. So happy that you are hanging with us tonight, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on your podcast. Hello. Charlene, hi. Dame, hi. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I said, this is Dynasty 365, and tonight we are going to be talking about orphans. As usual, I got my buddy in crime, Rich, but tonight we have two very, very special guests, and I'm excited to have them. Like one of them, I know you guys, you recognize her, you love her. I mean, here we go. You guys ready?
Ready.
She is a sports fanatic. Whether it's on the ice, the diamond, or the gridiron, she's there. She's the host of the Fantasy and Frames Draft Show on Thursday night. She's an expert on Darnell Washington's hands. She, my friend, is definitely a pro, not a joke. You know the lady lawyer herself, Stacy Perez. Welcome, Stacy. You can find her at Stacy Perez 83. Stacy, thanks for hopping on with us tonight.
Oh my gosh, what an intro! You guys have definitely stepped up the music and the graphics since I left. Like, what an upgrade! That's fantastic.
We're just trying to do some things, just have a little fun, like keep it light. But it's so good to have you back. And I might just move in your spot and let you host.
I don't know how well that would go over, Chris.
It'll be great.
I will say I'm over here responding in the chat, not realizing that since apparently I also have admin capacities on this, that I'm responding under the Fantasy and Frames app. So I figured that out now.
Yes. And it is a very special show tonight because we have two guests. And our second guest, let's talk about him. You've heard him on Dynasty Junkies. You've heard him on the Super Show. Trust me, if you want to look at fantasy football from a different perspective, this guy brings the heat, intellect, savvy, and actionable advice. Welcome, Tommy Blair. You can find him on Twitter at FFTommyB. Tommy.
Chris, can I hire you to just follow me around for the rest of my life? I need you as my hype man.
I will be your Flavor Flav.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me on, Chris. I'm so excited because I listened to y'all's show and now I'm a part of it. So it's just a really cool moment for me. Thank you.
I really, really appreciate that. Means a lot. Like, glad to have you on. I know we've talked about it for a while, and it is here. And it's like, I think this is the type of show that's in your wheelhouse just because, you're going to tell us how we can be better. I don't know. We'll see how that all goes. All right. So remember, everybody, go ahead and post your comments, your questions, whatever you might have in the chat. You can even tweet us. If you have trade questions or if you need help with your personal orphan teams, throw those questions in too, and we'll respond as we can. All right, guys. So the first thing that we're going to talk about tonight before we get into these orphans are news and nugs of the week. Cam Akers, he signed in Houston. Anybody interested? Anybody care? How we feel about it? Tommy, I'll ask you first.
I don't know if I care, but if you're in a really deep league and you're struggling with the last few roster spots, why not pick him up for free? That's exactly what he is right now. He's emblematic of what the position is. We have these highly touted RBs come into the game. We think that they're going to be something, and we're constantly disappointed at the position. It's not because of talent. It's because of injury attrition. It catches up to every running back and just reminds us of how short the shelf life really is.
Absolutely. Stacy, I know you're running to the waiver wire as quickly as you saw that, right?
Oh, I was. I mean, as somebody who on Sunday night drafted Joe Mixon, yeah, and then Monday morning wake up to see that Cam Akers is there. Did I get concerned? Did I freak out? No. I just pulled up his stats last year. He had 2 touchdowns last season, and the most fantasy points in a PPR format that he topped out at last year was week 1 against Seattle at 8.9 fantasy points. So not really all that concerned about what this means for Joe Mixon.
I mean, but a year ago, last year, right? Rich, weren't we saying the same thing about Devin Singletary?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I was really excited about Cam Akers. Being a Vikings fan and everything last year, I was really excited about him, and the little bit that we got to see of him was super fun. It just that I mean, was it great for fantasy? No, but it was fun, and it possibly could have blossomed into something more. So seeing him break down the way he did, it was pretty sad. I don't have a whole lot of it being that was his second time, right? I'm not just making that up in my mind. I didn't have a fever dream that this is his second one, right? Yeah, so I'm pretty much done on that, but I'm wishing him the best because I really do love Cam Akers. So
yeah, I mean you're completely different than Sean McVay. He doesn't.
Not wrong.
But anyhow, is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? I mean, I don't know. I know that camps are like ramping up, and we will have real football in a couple of weeks. I mean, the Hall of Fame game is right around the corner, so that is something to get excited about, right?
Nope.
All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm excited for the training camps to start up. Like we've been so dry. Everything's been so dry for the last few months. You're just struggling to make some kind of news, and most of it's bad. You're not seeing a lot of great stuff out there. Every now and then you'll see a contract extension, which is pretty great. But yeah, I've been waiting for training camp to start up just so that we have something, anything.
Okay. Yeah. Tommy, you getting excited about training camps?
Oh, I'm pumped. Yeah. I mean, seeing that Javonte Williams is alive and a human that can function as a running back, that was exciting today. Seeing Deneric Prince as the RB2, first guy to get reps behind Isaiah Pacheco, ran to my waiver wire and picked up like 35 different shares of him. It reminded me like, okay, it's time to churn the bottom of our rosters because we want to find the next Isaiah Pacheco, right? That's really what we're trying to do this time of year. And of course, there's going to be an ACL tear. We're all just holding our breath, hoping it's not our guy, right?
Absolutely. Right. That's the way it always goes. Stacy.
Yes.
Like, I know you said you're going to Bucks training camp.
I am going to Bucks training camp tomorrow. Got some last minute tickets for tomorrow morning. I got to be there at like 7 a.m. But super excited to check that. I've never been to training camp before, so can't wait. I feel like now is the time that we're seeing all these videos being released. Like at JSN's one-handed catch the other day, and it just getting super excited just to because we're so thirsty for football, right? Like we haven't seen anything for a while, so everything that's coming out is either going to confirm or like deny all of our biases that we've already kind of like built up throughout the summer. But one thing I just want to say, I saw that video of Tank Dell out there, and I saw all those people making fun of how little he is. And I say that needs to stop right now. That man came out and absolutely tore it up last year, before going down with that horrific injury. So quit making fun of him. He showed that he can ball out. Bryce Young, on the other hand, he did kind of look like a sixth grader going in for his first day in middle school. Sorry.
I mean, Tank Dell, if he hits the gym and he drinks a lot of milk, he might be as big as this pin.
Maybe on a good day.
Anybody else with that helmet kind of looked like Toad, from Mario?
Right? I mean, I get it, but like they do like so weird with those helmets.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, that is good stuff. And like Charlene said, like every Broncos fan is crossing all their fingers and toes. So that means that Audric Estime is going to be the back to own, right?
He's a thick boy. I know he's slow, but that man is jacked. Like, we're gonna get quad pictures of him for the next couple years. I'm really excited for that.
Yes, you know, because nobody wants to talk about AJ Dillon.
Poor AJ. We're going to talk about Marshawn Lloyd. And, you know, if he needs a hip donated, I'm sure there's a long line in Green Bay that's just like ready to help whatever he needs to get back on the field.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So we are going to move on to our next topic, and it's the anatomy of a fantasy dynasty orphan team. And we're just gonna like get into some things like when you move into deciding to pick up an orphan, like exactly what are you doing? So the first question that we're going to ask about that is, what are you looking for when you take over an orphan dynasty team? Tommy, coming to you first.
Oh gosh, so many different ways to take this. It's such a great question. First and foremost, you just want to make sure your money is safe. If you're putting money into these leagues, make sure you've got a good commissioner. They're not going to run off with your money. But when you're talking about the league itself, when you're an orphan or an adopting member, what you're really doing is you're inserting yourself into an ecosystem almost as like a invasive species. So there's been this like holistic little system, this bubble that was closed off to you, and you're coming into it. And so what I want to do first and foremost is see how much influence is there to exert. How are people playing? What types of strategies are they employing? How are they building their rosters? And where can I insert myself? Is there a good fit for me, Tommy Blair, the dynasty manager, with how I like to play dynasty, to do what I do best? If I've got a whole bunch of people playing exactly like I do and the team is garbage, I'm thinking, man, this is going to take a while. Do I have time to make the commitment to really build this team up competing with 4 or 5 other managers with exactly the same types of process as me? That might not be a good fit. You know, those markets may be a little saturated. I might want to look elsewhere. However, if I've got, you know, a 12-team league with 11 other managers who are rostering 14 wide receivers, who don't care about quarterback, who aren't leaning into premiums, I see some pretty fertile ground. And so it's more about what my opponents are doing than the assets on the orphan. Of course, we want good players, but really this is an opportunity for you to layer in some players that you don't typically roster into your portfolio, especially if you're a portfolio player. But even if you're not, it gets you exposure to players that maybe you wouldn't be inclined to roster, and you have to play the game a little bit differently because you're dealing with different assets. And I think that really helps us grow as individuals, as dynasty managers, and it opens up the game a lot wider, for me at least, as I've adopted orphans. But Stacy, what is your approach to this?
So, you know, Tommy, as much as my dating history would suggest, I do not, in fact, love a project. Okay. So when I'm out here looking for an orphan team, and I've actually only I've adopted 2 orphan teams. So don't adopt a ton of them. But when I am kind of in the market for that and I'm looking for one, you know, I'm looking for something kind of like with good bones, right? You know, if it's an orphan, it probably because somebody didn't want to deal with the team anymore. Maybe it's not super great, hasn't been winning a lot, you know, so it's not going to be one of your top teams. It's not going to be a winner right off the bat, most likely. But, you know, I want to look for a team that's got some good pieces that I can build around, or, you know, potential trade bait, you know, options as well. I want a team that's got some good picks too. I know when Chris and Tyler and I were looking into this team that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, you know, we'd have some teams that just had 0 draft picks until like the 4th or 5th round. And it's like, you know, what are we really supposed to do with that at this point? You know, you're taking on a team and really don't have any, you know, capital to build it with at all. So that's something that automatically for me is a red flag and is a no. So I want a team that's stocked up on their draft picks, or at least got all of their draft picks, if not some extras, and then has got some good pieces that I can build around too.
Nice.
I like it. Rich, what about you?
Yeah, mine's a little more bland. I there's 2 positions that I really focus on. I want to see what they have at tight end, and I want to see what they have at quarterback. This is partially because of the fact that I feel like that's some areas where I have a lot of growth available to me, a lot of opportunity for growth. in evaluating tight ends and quarterbacks, but also I feel like it's hard to hit on guys in those positions more so than it is to hit on a running back or a wide receiver down the line. So I feel like I can build into the other positions if I need to, whether that's through drafting or possibly just through trading in general, which brings me to the next piece, which is what Stacy was talking about. I want to make sure that I have all my draft picks. Like, that's huge for me. I want to make sure I have all my draft picks, if not maybe a couple extra, just so that I have a little more flexibility. I'm not necessarily wanting to take over something that is going to compete right away either. I usually go for something that has a little bit of a rebuild to it, just because then it kind of feels nice when you turn a rebuild around, and you make it to that championship, even if you don't win it, just turning that little orphan around that somebody didn't like very much. You make it into the playoffs, you make it deep into the playoffs, whatever. It's fun to brag with that. So
Totally.
I totally agree. So my personal preference, I like a reclamation project. I like it to be terrible. I don't want to have any picks. I don't even want to have any veteran presence on it. I want to come in there and just complain all season about how bad this team is, and then get after it and get to work and just take advantage of people who are not paying attention to me because they're like, oh, he doesn't want anything. But the little pieces that they want to come buy from my team, like as I'm selling them off from scraps, I'm getting an extra throw in, like, oh yeah, just throw in that lowly second. You're a contending team. You don't need that second. It's not going to mean anything to you. Oh, throw in another third. That's not going to mean anything to you. And so people, because they're like, I don't have to worry about this guy. He's not a threat. They give me extra stuff because they kind of feel sorry for me because I'm like, yeah, I took over this trash team. Like, help me out. And they're like, you know what? We will help you out. And I take advantage of it.
So you play on people's pity? Is that I want to make sure. Is that
Rich, I didn't say I play on their pity. I take advantage of their pity.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, you know what it is when you get into it. But that's what it is. So before we get to the next question, I just want to thank everybody who is watching us on YouTube, everybody who is listening to us on their favorite podcast. Just go like, subscribe, leave a comment, hit the bell just so you can be notified whenever there's any Fantasy in Frames content that is coming up. And in addition to Fantasy Frames stuff that may be coming up, we got something that's might be of interest to a lot of people. Oh, actually, let's answer this question right now. As a newer Dynasty player, the last thing I want is a rebuild. Okay. I thought it was a question. Sorry about that. But Charlene, I understand that. So a lot of people, they don't want the rebuild. So if you're going to go through the process of finding an extra team, then you want to do something with it. Me, I like, if I'm going to take on another team, something that I don't really have to pay too much attention to, but just capture the people who really are sleeping because they're not paying attention to me. But I love that. But Fantasy and Frames content. Stacy.
Yes.
I heard that you were kicking off a little pet project that I think a lot of our listeners might be interested in. You want to go ahead and tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Erica Brown from the Draft Show and I were talking, one day about different, formats that we'd like to draft in. That's kind of the whole idea of the Draft Show too, is finding different ways to draft. And so a Vampire League is one that came up. And I've never drafted in a Vampire League. I heard about it, I think listening to Matthew Berry several years ago, talk about the premise. And I just thought, gosh, this is a really cool way to play fantasy, really interesting. And so if you don't know what a Vampire League is, what it is probably going to be a smaller league, not your normal 12-team league, probably going to be like a 10-team, 8-team. And the reason why will make sense in just a minute. But one team is the Vampire, right? And what that means is that they don't draft at all. They don't participate in the draft, okay? Everybody else gets to draft. And then once the draft is finished, the Vampire then gets to go. They get free reign to the free agent, pool. They get to comprise their team of all the free agents. Then once the season starts, those head-to-head matchups, if you're playing the Vampire and you lose that week to the Vampire team, they get to come and take any player they want off of your squad. And that to me is just sounds like such a fun way to play. And so, we were thinking, a listener league might be a really great idea to do, make that our last show of the season. We're going to do the draft, live stream it. And so that's what we kind of came up with. And then, Chris, we kind of got together and said, hey, let's do a Dynasty 365 draft show combo team Vampire League here. And it's going to be a super flex. It does say individual defensive players on here. So we have actually made a change to that, guys. So those of you who are IDP, like, oh, no, I'm not so sure about IDP. Don't worry. We are not doing IDP in that. Shoot the Gap, our IDP show here at Fantasy and Frames, is actually doing their own listener league. So if you are down with the IDP and you want to jump in on that, you could head on over to their stuff, which I think they're going to be talking about a little bit later tonight. So it's going to be a Vampire League, super flex. 10-team league with one as a vampire, and that one vampire is going to be our Fantasy and Frames crew. We're going to be drafting that kind of as a team, and I'll be commissioning it throughout the season. So if you're interested in that, one fun way that we decided that we would kind of sort through everybody who's interested and figure out who's going to play in this is we want to know your most creative fantasy football vampire themed team name. And last week on the draft show, we did our post afterwards, and some of the suggestions we got here: Count Dacula. Yep. That was one. We got that written down. That's a good one. We have I May Drake Your Blood. Get it? We've got the LA Bram Stoker. Yeah, Bram Stoker. Yep. And then this one is Never Commit a Neck I Didn't Bite.
That's pretty good too. I like that one.
I like that one. I like
exactly.
That one.
So we want to see creativity from these. One of the requirements is your team name is going to have to be something vampire related. So get your thinking hats on. So if you want to play in this league with us, shoot us a message in the chat tonight. You can DM us. I think all of our DMs are open. Send us that info. Let us know that you are, wanting to do it, and send us your most creative vampire themed fantasy football team name. Oh, and that draft, Chris, is going to be on the 29th, August 29th, right before the season starts. That's going to be a live stream combo with Fantasy Football Weekly. It's going to be a long 2-hour show, so we can get all that done at once online.
That's going to be great. I mean, I'm really, really excited about it. So, Stacy, I know you said you'd never done a vampire league. I don't know about Tommy or Rich, but I've done one before.
Oh,
Rich, you never done one either?
No.
Tommy, you ever done one?
No, I haven't.
Oh man, so I did one only on the condition that I could be the vampire.
Nice.
Because as I said, like,
oh no,
project. I don't want anything. I just want. So, but when you're doing it, like you're sitting there, the vampire, you're watching, everybody's drafting. You're just like, oh man, they got some strong teams. And you're like, there's no way I can come back and compete. And then people in the draft were feeling bad for me. They're like, oh, Burns is not going to have anybody. Like, should we let him draft now? I'm like, no, not yet. But anyhow, I did it, and I'm the vampire. And week one, I don't know how, but week one, I beat the guy. And then I took his best player. And then it was a snowball from there. I think I won like 11 straight games. Like nobody could beat me. It was so crazy. They shut the league down. They didn't want to do it anymore because they were like, let's help Chris out. Like, I mean, we don't have to start our best lineups because he didn't draft. Little did they know, I had the waiver wire to myself. But anyhow.
Yeah. And that's the thing is you have the waiver wire. You get first dibs on the waiver wire once the season starts. So you do, it's not like you're having to fight the other teams for waiver picks. So it does give you, at least a, fighting chance on that. And that's going to be on Sleeper, everybody too. I have been told that Sleeper will allow me to customize it to the point that we can do a vampire league. So
that is awesome. So looking forward to that. So everybody that wants to come and play against us, like, we would love to have you. I mean, Rich, he was telling me before we went live tonight that he's never been defeated. And so prove him wrong. He might not have said that. I might be, like exaggerating a little bit. But anyway, it's got to be a lot of fun. All right, guys. So we're going to get back into talking about orphans. So, Stacy, I'm going to come to you first with this next question. If you take over a team, like an orphan team that's contending, do you have a strategy in particular that you like to use?
So I'm so glad that you asked this, Chris, because I'm looking over here at the show sheet to look at my notes, and I realized I didn't answer this question on the show sheet. I don't know why I didn't answer that earlier today. But no, I think if I'm taking over a contending team, which I have yet to take over a contending team, but I think if I ever did, my strategy would just be simple. Just, keep it going. If I've got a team that's winning, that's in a good spot to win the championship, I'm going to do what I need to do to keep that team on track, right? Because if you're winning, like you don't want to go back and do a rebuild. You're already in a good spot. You're going to be able to recoup your money, hopefully, that you put into the league, win that first place. So that's kind of my plan is that I'm just going to keep it steady, keep it going, not do anything too crazy, probably be pretty conservative with that team if it's already in a good position.
Okay. Tommy, coming to you, my friend. What is your
Exactly the
strategy?
opposite of everything Stacy said.
I love it. Yes.
If I'm taking over a contending team, if I've got, let's say some elite quarterbacks and a Christian McCaffrey or a Devontae Adams, like good pieces, legitimately good pieces. I'm a top 4 team. It's time for me to manipulate markets. Be Martha Stewart would be my recommendation. We don't live in regulated markets in Dynasty fantasy football, and that's beautiful. So you don't have to act like a stockbroker. You don't have to be conservative. You don't have to worry about losing because 11 people lose and 1 person wins. In the stock market, 49% of the people can win. That's the fundamental difference is you can manipulate markets to your own advantage because you're seeking a 1 in 8 or 1 in 12 or 1 in 14 outcome typically. And so if I have a contending team, what I want to do is lean into my strengths even further and build further asymmetry on my roster. So if I have 3 of the top quarterbacks, I want to get the top 5. If I have 3 of the top tight ends, I want to get 7 of them. Like I want to keep pushing towards that position of strength because essentially I'm playing against 3 other managers at that point. I don't care what all the middle tier teams or all the rebuilders are doing. Let them accrue value however they want to. What I want to do is force the market to act differently than it has been because I'm an orphan team, right? So I want to act different than what they're expecting, than what the last manager was doing or what the league economy has been. And typically I've found that pushing into consolidated profiles, moving into very elite tiers, and then consolidating positions themselves has forced people to think differently about how they're approaching their contending window. And very often, those on the fringe will push away from contention. They'll say, this isn't working how I thought it would. This market is different. Something isn't right. My lineups aren't looking how they're supposed to, how they do on my 5 other dynasty teams. You know what? I'm punting this one. Something's not right. I'm not going to worry about it. It's because I'm manipulating the markets, right? I'm changing the way that you're approaching your own teams as much as I can. And in doing that, hopefully you can get more of those 1 out of 12 outcomes. That's my goal, is just to be different enough to force people to rethink their own strategies.
Yeah. See,
Nice.
and you gave me hell saying that I was manipulating feelings and everything. He's just, Tommy's over here just, dropping psych bombs in the league and nobody knows it yet. I love it though. I love it. Rich.
Psychological warfare.
That's right. Whatever it takes. Rich, what's your strategy if you're contending?
No, that's I guess if I'm contending, I'm going about it a different way. I mean, I'm building towards that championship, and nothing else matters to me at that point. I'm trying to pick up pieces where, for me, I'm actually trying to find pieces where I'm maybe weakest. So like if I'm needing a running back or 2, I'm willing to give up on future draft picks and as we've talked on other shows and everything. I'm more than willing to get rid of all of my draft picks if that's what I feel it takes to get that championship. Like I want that championship, especially if I'm coming in as an orphan. Like that would be just that. It's just like a little cap on everything, Like, hey, I wasn't here last year. Now I'm here. I'm your champion. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Yeah, So,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely making moves. Making moves to make that happen. I want to try to keep the balance because I don't want people to think that I'm just in there to like just go for the championship and then bounce. And that wouldn't be what I would do anyways. Even if I did win, like I would still be in there for the long haul and everything. That's one of my favorite leagues right now is the long haul. And it was an orphan that I picked up. And I told the guy before he put me in there, I was like, I'm in it for the long haul if you want me to be in there. And he was like, oh, that's exactly what we're called. So so it's just a perfect little marriage there. But yeah, so a little bit of a balance, but yeah, doing what I have to make ends meet to get that championship.
Nice. So I love all you guys' answers, and I guess I do a little bit of everything. But for me personally, my actions when I take over an orphan, when I join that league, it really depends on how the owners behave. So if I join the league and it's a bunch of active owners and everything, then I'm trying to see like who the major players are, like what their game is. And then that's going to help me shape how I'm going to like penetrate the success of this league, So I sit back for a little bit. I watch what they're doing, and then I just do whatever's going to make me win quicker. And you come over, you take over a team, you have that one team that's really close to a championship contender. Well, they think they are, but they're just a playoff team. And then they overpay for stuff that you want to get rid of anyway. People really have the rookie hype, especially this time of year. Like everybody is thinking that Malik Neighbors is, Jerry Rice right now. He might be, but he has not proven anything to me in an NFL team. So if you want to give me Michael Pittman, another first, and then like a throw in somewhere, for the hope of Malik Neighbors, fine. And if you hit on that, good for you. But I'm going to use those other assets to do everything. So it really depends on how those owners behave is how I'm going to move. Because really and truly, like Tyler, he kind of touched on him. Not Tyler. See, you're in the triangle. So Tyler, Tommy, it's just
Love it.
Tommy touched on it earlier, like when he said that he wants to be different, do something that is just going to make the league, be different. So I am all for shaking things up, because when I join the league, I'm coming in there like Woody, Woody in that meme when he comes out the box and he's like. To the league. All right. So great answers, guys. But moving on to our next topic. So now we are going to talk about the Fantasy and Frames Orphan, the Dynasty teams that we got at the FFPC. And the name of the team, it's a great name, and you'll see why. Like it's a first round pick, QB Graveyard. And once you see the team, you'll kind of understand where it is. So before we show you like what the team is right now, we're going to show you what some of the trades that went down, as soon as we took over this team. And we're going to get Tommy and Rich and everybody in the chat if you just want to comment, just your thoughts on this or whatever. All right. So about this, it was $100 Superflex Best Ball Dynasty. It's on the FFPC. And these are some of the trades that we made moving in. So one of the first things was getting rid of Kyle Pitts. Did you see that?
Get him off my team. I don't want that guy.
You go.
Please.
Yep. Barkley Kamara trade. Barkley Raheem Mostert. I don't even remember that one.
Those were all prior to us taking it over.
Oh, so these aren't even ours. So why am I showing this?
I don't know why it's showing those, but the one that is ours is that top one, that one, the 103 with Pitts over to another team, and we got Jaden Reed and Justin Jefferson.
All right, so we're only going to be judged on the trade that we did complete. Yes. Tommy, I know, I can just see it in your eyes right now. Like you really want to speak on this trade. What's your thoughts on that trade right there, Tommy?
I'm just glad y'all didn't trade Saquon Barkley away for Alvin Kamara and Raheem Mostert. That does make me feel better. I get that it's best ball. I want to ask y'all first, though. I'm going to put you under the microscope. What was your intention? What was the process behind this deal? I think that is equally as important as the deal itself. What were you trying to accomplish by trading away Kyle Pitts in a draft pick and getting into Jaden Reed and Justin Jefferson?
So that, if I remember right, that was an offer that we got from that other team. So we hadn't put anything out to them. I mean, it almost happened like right when we took over that team a few months ago. And at the time, our receiver room definitely needed some help. And, so the opportunity to get Justin Jefferson in addition to Jaden Reed and kind of bolster, the team there in that way, we thought was a good value for that 103 and in Kyle Pitts at that time. I see there's a question in the chat from Jim. Did the 103 end up being Brock Bowers? No, it was not. It was actually Jaden Daniels. I went and pulled this up right now. Bowers actually didn't go until Team 7 took Brock Bowers in that league. So,
which for the listeners, this is a 1.5 tight end premium, correct?
yes, it is. 1.5 tight end premium. It's a super flex best ball dynasty. Full point PPR, 22-man roster, also includes a defense and a kicker.
Could you expand a little bit on your thought process behind wanting to bolster wide receiver?
Yes. So let me grab, okay, there it is. So there's our roster. So at the time, I'm not going to count the rookies that we ended up drafting or getting, but we had Chris Godwin, DJ Moore, and Hollywood Brown were there. And so this is also a league where you're going to have 2 flex spots in addition to your 2 receivers starting, and with a full point PPR, and it obviously it's Justin Jefferson too. And keep in mind too, this was way early before the draft, when we took this as well. So, the opportunity just to get Justin Jefferson on this team, one of the best receivers, because really if you were looking at the team at that point, DJ Moore was going to be our highest, receiver there, which, not really a first round, it's more like second round guy. And then Chris Godwin a little bit later, Hollywood Brown. And at the time, I'm not sure, Chris, do you remember, was Hollywood even on Kansas City at that point?
He was not.
Yeah, right. So, just some questions there that we had. So the opportunity to get obviously Justin Jefferson, just kind of speaks for itself, but did you get Jaden Reed as well, who potentially another number 1 on this team? I just thought, I was definitely in favor of doing the trade. I think we all were in agreement with it. I don't think any of us hated it. So we just thought it made sense at that point.
Yeah, love getting Justin Jefferson. Jaden Reed was, I think, a top 12 wide receiver over the last 5 or 6 games of the year in 2023. So could potentially portend some ceiling potential there. It's not a deal that I would make, to be honest with you, because I feel that there is more leverage in waiting on Kyle Pitts and potentially trying to move that 103 in a different direction. I don't mind the trade, though. It feels market fair. It feels like you guys did build an advantage somewhere in your roster. And so I'm not going to say it was a bad trade. The thing that we need to keep in mind as well is this is a best ball league, right? So we don't have to pick which wide receivers are going to hit, which is probably the most challenging thing when you move beyond Jefferson with this roster of choosing who is going to be in that top 2 or potentially the top 4 in your starting lineup week over week. Did that factor in at all?
It did. And with best ball, obviously our number 1, desire with best ball is when we decided we were going to do this is that we didn't want to give ourselves any extra work during the season. but the fact that, it is a team that we're not going to have to be concerned with, and argue about who we're going to start every week, who's going to be the one that hits and goes off, was really helpful in, making that and especially when you look at our tight end room, getting rid of Kyle Pitts definitely hurt us in that regard. And I don't think we were able to really kind of rebound from that. If you take a look at our guys right now, we've got Sinnott, Davis Allen, Dawson Knox, Tyler Higbee, who's obviously hurt, Juwan Johnson. So not great at all, especially when you're talking about like a tight end premium league. So that's definitely an area where it needs help. It could have been helped if we had kept Kyle Pitts. But I think still in that regard, if we had kept Kyle Pitts, we wouldn't have, JJ or Jaden Reed, at that point, which, who knows if we could have done something else during the draft, but this was all also pre-draft as well. So we didn't have any of these rookies and
Kyle Pitts just came off another stinker of a year, and
Exactly.
we really weren't feeling Kyle Pitts.
And
I mean, like I even
think
did a song saying I'm never playing Pitts again. He's
and I think
overrated. He's got no QB. So a lot of stuff has happened in the offseason. I mean, so the offense seems to be more upgraded now with Arthur Smith. He's now gone. And then you have Raheem, I was going to say Raheem Mostert, but you got Morris that comes in. And this offense that is supposed to show up is going to be different. Everybody's excited about it. Kirk Cousins is coming over there and arguably the best quarterback that Kyle Pitts has ever had in his life. So it could be better, but yeah, the whole thing, we were just trying to get JJ at that time because we felt like it would be a groundswell for something that we needed that we could actually build off of that. And then we were trying to get some more picks and everything also, just because what the owner left us, I mean, we still had, I think, the second and the third, but
We had multiple second round picks in this league. And I want to say, so this draft took place on May 4th. I want to go back and look and see what the landscape was, because I knew there was something going on with Pitts, and I want to see when Kirk Cousins signed, because if it was after that May date, that may have been another reason why we were thinking about, okay, we can get rid of Pitts. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like there in Atlanta. So I'm gonna do a quick Google real fast to see when that happened.
Yeah, I would imagine it would have been late March, early April.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this though: if I offered you Jaden Daniels or Brock Bowers, one or the other, and Kyle Pitts back, all you had to do was give me Justin Jefferson and Jaden Reed. Which side are you taking today?
So that is a good question. So today, Jaden Daniels, with a Daniels, Reed, and hold on, that's
Daniels and Pitts.
Yeah. Tommy, you had it almost right on. It was March 13th. So that did not factor at all.
Oh.
I can't use that excuse. But yeah, March 13th was when he signed with the Falcons. I don't know why I thought it was later than that.
I thought it was later than that too.
I
Actually, I
don't mind
thought
the
we did this
decision.
early in the season. I thought we did
I
it
don't
like
mind
right
the
after.
decision when y'all made it. This is not. I'm not saying it's a bad trade.
Yeah.
I'm saying that today the value alignment is probably on the give side. However, what you've done is you've consolidated into one of the real difference makers at any position. And there's typically nothing wrong with that. Like sometimes you have to pay a value tax in order to get into a Justin Jefferson. And so I don't mind it. I think that it is a core component of your team. Chris, what do you think? Should we move on to talk about our individual thoughts on the team before we get any further?
Yeah, I was just getting ready to look at Rich because I see him like, look at him. Like the beard's looking luxurious, and he's just ready to just show the word. Rich, what's your thoughts on the team, my friend?
Oh, I got so much to say. No, I really love. I don't hate the team. I love Jalen Hurts a lot. He's my QB3, and I think that would enough. Like I said before, for the two positions that I'm looking at are quarterback and tight end typically. So jumping into it, Jalen Hurts QB3, I would have jumped all over that. Having Pitts, I probably wouldn't have traded him away even at that time, but I understand why you all did. I mean, to get JJ is huge, so I don't blame you there at all. I'm interested to see what Carr, and I'm actually really interested to see what Rattler does, because I'm guessing you got Rattler pretty cheap.
Yeah. I'll go back and look. I've got our draft board pulled up, so I can see where we took him.
Yeah. So I'm not expecting huge things from them, but I am interested to see what they do, and I think that they are pretty decent picks there. Yeah, let's see where.
Round 4. We took it. So we had the third pick. After that first one, we were second round, third pick, and then also the 8th pick. And then we had the third round then going forward. Or third pick, sorry, going forward.
I might have taken Estime myself, just because, like we were talking about, those quads, see what he's got there. No, I really do. I really am. Jorge actually got me in on Rattler. He convinced me on that. As far as the rest of the team goes, the running backs, they need improvement. They'd probably be the first thing that I'd trade away personally. Although I would wait to see who is competing for the championship or competing for the playoffs and everything like that. I don't know what trades are like is there a trade deadline in this league?
I don't. I'll let me take a look at that and see.
Okay. If there is a trade deadline, I'd probably wait until closer to then to see if I'm competing, and if I'm not, then I'm trying to find who is and who needs a running back. And I'm probably trading away at least Kamara, if not both him and Mixon. Love the receivers. Absolutely love the receivers. I think that between what you had with Jaden Reed, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Malachi, I'm missing somebody. There was somebody else that I saw there that I was like, yes. Godwin. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. No, I really like what you had with your receivers and everything as well. As far as tight ends go, like I said, I probably wouldn't trade it away Pitts, but I am really hopeful for Sinnott. I think that he is landing in one of the best positions that he could, especially getting to work with Ertz. I think that's going to be huge for him, growing as a tight end. So that's my 2 cents.
And to answer your question, the kickoff of week 12 is the trade deadline.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. By then you should have a good understanding of where you're at in the league and where everybody else is standing too.
Yeah. At that point, week 12, when you're saying like, oh my God, Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the running back 13 right now. That's what's going to be. Anyhow, Tommy, what's your thoughts on this team?
What are my thoughts? All right. So 22-man rosters. I would imagine that trading the bottom third of your roster is and has been historically a challenge. I know y'all are new to this specific team. Have you played in this format before? And if so, has that been your experience?
I haven't played Dynasty with the FFPC before. I've done several other formats, but not the Dynasty.
Yeah, I've never done a Dynasty best ball either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same.
So because it's 22-man, and can we pick up, I'm assuming we can pick up players in season? Yeah.
Yes.
The challenge here is running backs don't matter until they matter quite a bit, right? And so people aren't going to trade for these running backs until they matter quite a bit, and they're going to be loath to trade for them, even when they do hit, because there's always another one around the corner. There are fruitful waivers here. And so what you guys need to do is probably seek asymmetrical upside. You need to do a different roster build than most of your league mates because you need the higher variance to come your way. You need to get lucky in essence, because you have a few pillars. You have some really, really good players, but you also have a lot of inefficiency, and you need all of the pistons to be firing in concert. And right now, I don't see that on this team. I see a lot of stumbling blocks. And so what I do whenever I review any team is I look at historical production, not necessarily of the individual players, but I look at the positions themselves. And so I say the RB1 finisher overall historically scores X number of points, the RB2, the RB3, so on and so forth. And then I take the Fantasy Pros expert consensus rankings and I layer in the players' names to those scores. So essentially, I'm saying whoever the consensus is ranking as the wide receiver 36 is going to score about the same as the wide receiver 36 has always scored historically, right? So I'm not predicting what players are going to do. I'm just pairing them with what ranks historically would say that they're going to do. And that's actually more accurate than ECR or projections themselves, at least in my experience. It's more predictive, at least. And so what I did is I took your team and I ran it through this nerdy little spreadsheet that I made. And what it does is it accounts for injury risk for all of the different positions. It accounts for the warp, the wins over replacement player at each position. So the QB1, that would be the 6th overall player, so on and so forth, all the way down these different positions, because you're starting 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a couple of flexes. And so when I run your team through this spreadsheet, it says your average outcome is about 4 wins this year, y'all. You're gonna be about 4-10, according to my calculations, which is a harsh truth. Right?
It's got to be better than it was last year.
What was it I need to find what it was.
While you're finding, Jamie's got a great question. When using the Fantasy Pros ECR, do I take out the experts I don't like? No, I typically don't, because the more you limit the pool, the less accurate the collective gets, even when you have quote unquote bad experts, because experts are bad at certain things, but not all things. And so if you sort of aggregate everyone's collective information, sort of like start rates, like you can look at a very accurate expert's start sit recommendations. They almost never beat the consensus. There is a certain efficiency to the herd that we need to respect and adhere to and try not to be better than, in my opinion. And so I use the good rankers, the bad ones. If I do need to have a tiebreaker, of course, you can lean towards the good ones, but that's where personal bias comes into play. And I want to remove that as much as possible. But looking at this 4-win team, it does look like there are some holes that we can patch, and there's some outcomes that we can sort of lean into, specifically at the tight end and running back position, to increase our odds of doing better this year. Before I made any recommendations, though, I wanted to ask y'all, what is your anticipated outcome of this team? And like, what is your runway? What do you want this to look like? Not what do you expect it to look like, but over the next 12 months into 24 months.
So for me, I think that's a really good question because I feel that I was maybe a tad bit tipsy when we decided to take over a team. And actually, us looking at
Quite
teams,
the show. That should have been a show, honestly. Our
I
discussion.
listened to it. It was a great one.
Wanted to hitch our wagon to.
yeah. So with that, I'm like, but I need to pay more attention and figure out exactly what it is. But yeah, Stacy, do you have an answer for Tom? It's a great question. I have no answer though.
So I know I don't have a specific idea of where I want this team to be. So I looked in last season, it came in third from last, with the team that we actually traded Pitts to coming in second from last. We all in all, the winner here scored overall 2,937 points. We came in with a whopping 2,493 points. Best ball, obviously, it's just, like the point scored is what you're looking at there. I don't think that when we decided on this particular team, I don't think that we thought, oh, we absolutely have, championship written all over it at all. So I think coming in somewhere beyond what happened with it last year, maybe a couple spots ahead, somewhere in the middle, would probably be considered, I think, successful for this team this year.
Okay.
I agree with that. I mean, I like it. But yeah, I mean, this team, it's fun. So as we're going through it, and we were laughing a lot at some of the things that were done for the previous owner, and we just wanted to have a team where we could really have some fun with it. Mm-hmm. And then I think it became one of those things where the draft happened when we were all really busy. And I know Stacy's in the group chat, and she's like, guys, what are we doing? And I'm not even looking at it until like 7 hours after she sent this message because I'm just so busy. And then Tyler, like, he comes in a day and a half later. It's like, oh, I think we should take blah, blah, blah. She's like, yeah, we're 3 rounds past that now. So it's one of those things. Everything about this team has just been extremely chaotic. But I do believe that it is going to be fun. And yeah, like, you guys are interested, we will keep you posted.
It sounds like a co-managed team to me.
Right.
It was like one of those teams that we decided to adopt, and then the parents got divorced. Like,
right.
Like after we adopted the child.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah.
All right.
We can't turn it around though. This is not a lost cause, y'all.
No. We will turn it around. We will keep you guys posted. You know, you can be our accountability, people. Hold us accountable. We're going to turn this around. All right. So now we're going to get into user question.
Dynasty eyesight out of whack? We'll get you on track. That's right. It's Dynasty in Focus.
All right. So a question that we have, actually, I do not have it on the screen, but the question is like, are you cautious about taking over a team in a league where you don't know any of the owners? So, you come in, you just take over this team. You know no one there, kind of like we did with this FFPC team. We don't know anybody there. Mm-hmm. Tommy, what's your move?
Am I cautious if I'm taking over an orphan in which I know none of the 11 other managers? I would contend that this is not a time for caution. You have a huge opportunity in the very short term because you have information on all of the other managers that they don't have on you. You have transaction history. You can look back and see what offers they were making, what waiver moves they were claiming, what comments were in the chat or trade offers. You have all of that information on these different managers, and they don't even know who you are, theoretically. And so what I would contend is do a quick recon of everyone else and say, like, all right, what strategies are they employing? What are they trying to accomplish? What have they offered me in the past? And how was it met? Was it met with resistance, with rudeness, apathy? How can I capitalize on what other people have been feeding me in terms of information before I even walked through the door? Once you decide what your path is with these different managers, it's about executing these trades very quickly. You want to show that you're a good trade partner, that you're aggressive, that you get deals done, that the economy is different now. And you also want to execute a strategy as quickly as possible before the other managers realize what it is you're trying to accomplish.
I love that. I need to get in the league with you, Tommy.
Absolutely.
Rich, what's your thoughts?
So my thoughts, honestly, I'm a little bit different. I like I wouldn't say that I'm cautious, but I'm definitely reserved. I'm wanting to take my time and see what the rest of the league is doing, but at the same time, I don't want them to think that I'm inactive or anything like that. So I come out the gates. Typically, when I take over an orphan, I'll come out the gates and I'll make a trade or two just to show, hey, I'm here. I'm not going to be this inactive guy that's just sitting here on this orphan or anything like that. I want to compete. I want to talk with you all. I want to make something happen. And so then that way, hopefully, it'll bring them to me as well to get conversations going on what we're going to do for trades and whatnot. So yeah, definitely not cautious, just reserved.
Love it. Stacy.
So I like what both you guys said, Rich and Tommy, and I think a long time ago I would have been a little cautious, maybe entering into a league with folks that I didn't know. But I think now, having played in so many different tournaments and different styles and formats of fantasy football with nobody that I knew, complete strangers, I think that's kind of cured me of that just a little bit. And I think you just have to be really confident in yourself and trust your manager abilities. You're out here, if you're listening to our show, it's July 24th, right? If you're listening to Fantasy Football Podcast in July, you're probably already ahead of most of the people that play fantasy, just on a casual basis. So, you're already, like I said, just miles and miles ahead at that point and doing your research. You're probably a really thoughtful drafter, and you're putting a lot of time and effort into your leagues and your teams if you're paying attention to what's going on this early. And so I would just say, trust in your instincts, trust in your abilities, and be confident as a manager and go in that, you've done your research. Like Tommy said, you have that available. It's not way back in the day when you can't go in and look up, all the different things that have taken place in your league. We have so much information at our disposal. So I don't have any concern with going in and doing that. Although that being said, you get in a league with some people that don't want to trade or, don't respond to trades and things like that. It can really ruin a league. That's happened to me before in the past. But I think overall, just going in and entering that league to just answer that question, I wouldn't feel any hesitation to do so.
Love it. Love everything you guys said. And Jamie, I appreciate you, really do. It means a lot. Thanks a lot. All right. And with that, we have completed another episode of Dynasty 365. Big thanks to Jamie and everybody in the chat. Everybody who's listening to us, everybody who's watching us on YouTube. We really appreciate you guys. You are the lifeblood of D365. And a major thanks to the talented Stacy Perez. Stacy, tell the people where they can find your amazing content.
Oh my goodness, guys. So I'm here at Fantasy and Frames. You can find me on Thursday nights at the draft show. We do that. We kick it off at 9:00 on the Eastern time zone. Rich is there. We got Erica, we got Keith, we got Kevin. Every week we're doing a different draft. Tomorrow night we have got the lovely and talented Rachel, you know her as Tootsie Pop 6 on the Twitter machine jumping on. We are going to be doing an underdog eliminator for you guys. And then everywhere else you can find me at Stacy_Perez83.
Awesome.
I'll Venmo you later, Jamie. Thank you.
Yes, I gotta test. Stacy is an all-star. She's a pro's pro, let me tell you. Also, a tremendous amount of thanks to Mr. Tommy Blair. I appreciate you coming in, chopping it up with us a little bit, and giving us that perspective. I just love the way you think and how you break things down and analyze it. So, Tommy, will you please let the people know where they can find your awesome content?
Yeah, first, thanks, y'all. I had a great time chatting with each of you. It was great to meet. Some of you hadn't ever been on air with you before, so it was an honor to join the show. If you liked my content, you can find more at the Superflex Super Show. We try to release an episode every Thursday now. Also, every other week on Dynasty Junkies. We're going to be going weekly here, in just a few days. So we're going to have a lot more content coming out on Dynasty Junkies and occasionally Trade Addicts as well whenever Russ doesn't feel like recording.
Yes. But yes, thank you both for coming in, hanging out. Rich,
Absolutely.
thank you as always for just being great. Rich, You're just a dude. So I appreciate you. Again, thank you to everybody watching on YouTube or listening on your favorite podcast platform. You can follow Rich at Rich Sickles GBM. He's the gingerbeard man himself. And you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Dynasty Deviant. Also, visit us at fantasyandframes.com. Subscribe to our show on YouTube or wherever you consume your favorite podcast. While you're there, as I asked you before, give us a like, comment, subscribe, leave a review. Tell us how much you love us, or at least tell Rich how much you love that beard. He really likes hearing that, guys. Also, hit that bell so you're notified whenever new content drops. And speaking of new content, like all the Fantasy and Frame shows, Fantasy and Frame Wednesday, we're here. We kick off on Wednesday with Dynasty 365. We're followed by 4th and Frames for your redraft content. And then Shoot the Cap brings up the rear with that IDP content for all you defensive heads out there. Also, tune in on Thursdays for Fantasy Football Weekly and the Draft Show. Stacy and Rich, they're doing their things on that also.
Right.
I appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's go be like Daddy Warbucks to a couple of these orphan teams and turn them into champions. Good night, everybody. Outro, please.
Wow!